What is pop-a-loppin' and crack-a-lackin' tech, yes, citizens? Today, we have the used PC parts hunt of the month. We're gonna be going around looking for, of course, those good used deals on PC parts. Now, last month, we came into some pretty good deals at stores. So two of these stores were hmmm and dos in Chiba. So we're gonna go pay another visit to those two stores, see what's going on there, and also my local hard off, we're gonna check that out. But definitely along the way, I'm gonna be popping in to any secondhand stores and seeing if they've got any PC parts. And of course, if all else fails, then we'll turn to the good old internet to see what deals we can find there. So strap on in, get your used PC parts hunting capes on, and let's go have some fun.
Hey bro, are you tired of seeing this annoying activate Windows message? Then if so, today's video sponsor SSD Keys has you covered. For as little as $14 using the coupon code BFTYC, you can get activated today. Works for Windows 11 Pro too. Links in the description below.
So we just got done having an absolute shopping spree at dos and hmmm, and we'll go through dos first because they had the graphics cards, the GPU deals, where we got an RTX 2080, and we got one of these last month, but then I saw another one and it came down in price even more than last month. So GPUs in Japan, they are definitely coming down in price here. I'm actually really shocked that we got an RTX 2080 under 300 USD, and that comes with a 1-week guarantee, which if you guys do a stress test, and which I'm going to do when I get home, I'm gonna test the memory sliders, test the OC on the core, I'll be able to tell how well this GPU was taken care of. But then we also managed to find an RTX 3080 Seahawk edition. This has got the full-blown water cooler on it and everything. It's pretty much a top-of-the-line GPU from MSI, and they had Hachima on it, but in USD terms, I think that's around 580 US dollars, so coming well under MSRP. And this thing was apparently only bought 2 months ago, where I saw the guy that sold me some parts last month, and he was actually happy to see me, and he was talking me through a lot of these parts. And so we also ended up getting a GTX 1066 gigabyte for a little over $100. Now, the one thing with the 1060 is I actually am very curious. The reason I bought this, it's not such a really good deal, but the reason I bought it is because it is the top GPU on Steam. And mainly I want to refresh my brain on how good this card is, especially at 1080p, and how it compares to say the RX 6600 and even something like the RTX 3050. So that's sort of where I'm at with the GTX 1060. I want to pay that little bit of money to see where this GPU stands, and hopefully you guys will get a good video in the process. And now moving over to hmmm, and this one was just absolutely off the rails. I was blown away by some of the deals we got here, because if you're a foreigner and you've got a foreign passport, you can actually get 10% off here, and that's exactly what we did. Walked in and we started just picking out cream of the crop deals here. We started with, first of all, a GTX 1080 Ti. This was going a little over 250 US dollars, so $250 for a top-of-the-line Zotac model. This thing was a beast, and this thing looked like it was in mint condition. They're giving you a 1-week warranty, just like dos, so I'll be able to get these cards home, run them through the paces, make sure they're all okay, especially the VRAM and overclocking that VRAM, just to test if the card was in the hands of a cryptocurrency miner or not. So that's something we'll do when we get back. The next few deals that we went through here was actually a little bit different, because I'm actually gonna be building my son a mini ITX PC for music production and playing Minecraft. And so when that video is ready, I'll put the link up here. But of course, it's gonna be a used price performance banger. And what we got here was a used Ragen Tech ITX case. This is the Evo. And I looked at it and I said, do you like this case? And my boy just said, yeah, that's really cool. It's small, it's similar to Daddy's, and it's got the tempered glass. It's got a really good feel to it, but it also has great options in terms of building inside, where you can use an ATX power supply, which ironically, I couldn't find an SFX power supply in those two stores. And then we found, to go in this case, a platinum rated power supply for I think a little under $80. This is a Seasonic power supply, fully modular, and it's platinum. And I was just like, wow, that's a really good deal on a power supply, especially not just for the efficiency, but because it's Seasonic as well. So we scored that for this build. And another part that we got for this build was the i3-12100. And this was brand new, but we got it for much under a brand new price. So I think maybe it was purchased and someone returned it and they didn't want it, but because they had handled it, they didn't want it anymore. So we ended up picking it about 20% under what it sells for on even Kakaku.com, that's price.com, where you get the best deals. Kind of like if you went to PC Part Picker and searched all the different stores, that's what Kakaku.com is in Japan. It's like the PC Part Picker of Japan. But of course, since we're going ITX, we needed an ITX motherboard. And actually this is why I chose that i3-12100, because they had a H610 ASRock ITX board there, going for just a shade under 100 USD. And this was pretty much nearly brand new when I looked at it. Even though it was used, I went through it and it just really looked like it had no usage because the IO panel shield was still in the packaging. So that's always a good thing to look for if you're looking for used products and some of the products are still packaged like new. And even in the case of that ITX case, that looked brand new and the riser cable and all the other stuff was still in the original packaging. So some of these used parts, it looks like people buy them, maybe keep them for a month or 2 months, decide they're not going to use it, then they just go sell it again. So in this case, we are just getting even more value from these used parts than ever. Though the deals don't just stop there. We ended up getting 32 gigabytes of DDR4 memory, Corsair Vengeance 3200 megahertz memory for I believe around 90 USD. So that was a really good score considering we want the low profile stuff and I want 32 gigabytes for my son's PC, considering he did tell me he wants to start making music. And it's kind of funny for a 10-year-old to tell me that he wants to start making music. I'm like, man, I can get into that with you. So I'm gonna be building him something pretty cool for music production. At least from what I researched, we need a pretty powerful CPU. So the i3-12100 should actually deliver for music production, where I don't think you need, at least from my experience, you don't need so much more cores, more threads, but you do need really good single thread, at least for 4 cores, really good single thread IPC and really good 4-core performance. So I think an i3-12100 will do a really good job coupled with 32 gigabytes of RAM for music production. So there is the tally so far, completely satisfied with what we had already in this deals hunt. But what we're gonna do right now is go to my local hard off and check the Wonder X quickly. That's just usually part of the routine. You guys are probably seeing, I've been in Japan a few months, but I've already got this used parts routine going on where we're picking up really good deals. But also there were some other deals there that I decided to pass up. And one of those was a 7850. They were asking a little over 20 USD for this card. And they said on the box that they had tried to do a benchmark on it and it had dropped out. So I was thinking, probably give that one a miss since it's probably a faulty 7850 that they're just trying to get rid of, and they don't guarantee that product at all. Then they had a Corsair mechanical keyboard, the K63, and I asked my son if he wanted it, and he said no, but it was in really good condition. You could pick this up for a little over 20 USD for a really good quality keyboard, but he said he actually wants the Microsoft Ergo like I've got at my studio. So we're gonna get him a Microsoft ergonomic keyboard, probably the best keyboard out there. Look guys, if you are rocking a Microsoft ergonomic keyboard, let us know in the comments. So we quickly did a tour through Wonder X and Hard Off and we got double busted, but they did have some new items that were decent. They had a 630 watt power supply, which was 80 plus bronze. That was going a little over $10, but I've already got a heap of power supplies still from that massive power supply buy-up video we did on the channel. I'll put the link up here if you haven't seen already, but basically used power supplies are really good value in Japan. But then we came over to Wonder X and they had one new item, and that was a Fractal Design Define Mini C with, it was a very, if you wanted like a very clean looking case that's well built, I think that'd be okay, but it was 5,000 yen or a little under 40 US dollars. So not the best deal on a used case, but it makes me wonder that they did have this other real budget case in there for 500 yen. And I think like Hardoff and definitely WonderX, I know WonderX would be taking all the parts out from people trading in PCs, and they must be selling those parts online, because I'm just not seeing any of the smaller components in this store anymore. Things like, say, RAM or SSDs or CPUs. So this store right here, they must be, doing the whole taking piece by piece out rather than trying to sell at the store. They just must be selling them straight online. So understandable. I mean, of course, if they can get more money for it, but I think in ways it kind of defeats the purpose of perhaps having a big store such as this one. Anyhow, guys, let's get back to the Tech Yeah Studio, where we're still going to get an SSD. So I'm going to be looking for a deal online for an SSD to finish up my son's PC. I may also look for a 120mm water cooler as well, because the thing about the i3 12100 is the stock cooler, even on the 12100, 12400, it does get even a little bit worse, is that the stock coolers just aren't good enough. And so if you get a solid cooler for the 12th gen, it's going to bring down the temperatures a lot, but also bring down the power consumption a lot too, just by having a good cooler. And here we are now at the next day, and I decided to go through all of these graphics cards, especially since I've only got that 7-day warranty on a lot of them. I want to make sure that they're okay. If I do come into any problems, I can quickly go and drop them back and refund them. And this is where one of the 4 cards wasn't working at least 100%, and that was the GTX 1080 Ti. And what happened here was the core clock actually, when I dropped that a little bit, it was running stable, but then at the default settings, it would crash out of Unigine Heaven after, on average, around 2 minutes, which what this means is, and I probably will make a separate video because it's going to be very helpful for people, especially if they're buying used computer parts, especially used graphics cards. In this case, the person who bought it before, they must have bought it brand new and been gaming on it for a long time. Then what happens is there's slight degradation over time, especially with a GPU core if they're a gamer. If they're a miner, there's going to be the opposite. There's going to be degradation on the VRAM, the memory. So checking out this 1080 Ti, I upped the slider on the memory. That was absolutely fine. In fact, it boosted pretty high. And then I checked the core clock, and then once I dropped that a little bit, it started working absolutely fine. But the thing is with this 1080 Ti Amp Edition Extreme is that I might not return it because it's such a nice looking card. The cooler's massive, the temperatures are really good, it's a very quiet card, also looks awesome. And when I looked at the specifications, this thing is boosting extremely high out of the box. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Zotac actually had quite a few returns on this card where they maybe quickly binned it, but then when it went into a hotter ambient environment, the card started failing a little bit, even with default, because they're going 180 megahertz over the default boosting level of a 1080 Ti Founders, for example. So that could be the cause itself, and it's an easy fix for me. Instead of taking the card back, which I believe I got an extremely good deal on this 1080 Ti, instead of taking it back, I can just flash in an amp. Instead of the Extreme Edition, just flashed in a Zotac amp BIOS, which is about 80 megahertz lower, and that should do the trick absolutely fine. You'll still have an overclocked card essentially, but it'll work perfectly fine. So, but do let us know in the comments, what would you do in this situation? I mean, I just feel like the card's such a nice card, and it doesn't look like, especially from the memory, it doesn't look like it's had a too heavy of a life. And so that could be a problem that some of the people who went out and bought an Amp Edition could have come into, where they just needed to lower the core clocks a little bit because it's been so aggressively overclocked out of the box. Though in terms of the 3080 Seahawk, that thing works absolutely fine. We were getting under 50 degrees most of the time in the stress test. This is in a Japanese summer. It's very hot here. Even though it's like maybe 30 degrees or just a little over 30 degrees, it feels like it's so much hotter here than an Australian summer, where even at 35 degrees in Australia, I feel cooler in Australia because it's not as humid. The humidity here is just so high that you walk outside and you just start dripping sweat. So that's one thing about Japan. The summers here can get ridiculously humid, and that just makes it really sometimes unbearable. But anyhow, we got the next card, the GTX 1060. That was absolutely fine. That was working fine on the core clocks, on the VRAM, just like the 3080 Seahawk. Then the RTX 2080. This was so interesting because the core clocks, the memory clocks, they were absolutely fine. In fact, they were really healthy, especially for a blower cooler. But then upon inspecting this card closer, this thing like literally looks like it was brand new or something. And the way to tell is to look really closely at the fans, especially if it's got a blower fan. They're extremely hard to clean. In fact, to make it this clean, you would have to run it through the ultrasonic cleaner or have some really good cleaning components, because just looking through the card top to bottom, it just looked like it was brand new. And then the performance of it out of the box just looked very impressive. So maybe in this case, what happened with this card, I believe someone had a faulty 2080, they sent it back for repair, and then they went and bought another graphics card and got that 2080 back and thought, oh, I don't need this anymore. And the company just sent them back a brand new 2080. So it looks like it's brand new and it performs like it's brand new. So I'm just gonna think that it's brand new. Now, in terms of the other parts, they are looking absolutely schmick. I checked them out closely here at the studio. And also in terms of what else I'm looking for, I need an SSD and I also want to get a water cooler for my son's build. So I checked online and there was no good used deals on SSDs. And it's like the other past few months here where I've been looking for storage and RAM. And thankfully we found a decent deal on that DDR4 memory. It wasn't the best deal, but it was a decent deal. But in terms of storage, I couldn't find any decent used deals. So I went just on Amazon, looked at what they had. They had a 1 terabyte M.2, and that was going for around about $70, a little over 70 USD. So we snapped that up. And also we ended up getting a Corsair 120mm, which was on a time sale at one website. And that was a little under $50 US. So pretty good deal there too. So you can find some good deals on the new side, even if the used side doesn't produce the deals that you want to get. Though in terms of continuing the parts hunt online, what I saw with the GPUs straight away was that 3080s were going higher than what I paid for this Seahawk. And of course they weren't as good as the Seahawk edition. So GPUs themselves, I was looking high and low, and I believe the deals that we got here so far are just ripper deals, much better than the online deals. And also in terms of CPUs and memory and things like that, I was getting really good deals at these places. But that being said, what I'm gonna do from here on in is I've got to go and meet up with one of my friends from way back in the day, and he's about an hour out from another city. So while I'm there, I'm actually gonna leave a little bit early and see if there's any used junk stores that I can go hit up, check out and see if they got any used PC parts. And then we'll come back and see what's crack-a-lackin'. And now we're back here Monday morning, and now I went to that new area, and unfortunately, just like pretty much every other hard off, it's been a bust. They actually had two different ones. They had a full-fledged hard off store there. Then they had a book off, which generally just sells anime and manga comics, and they also sell video games for consoles. So if you're into consoles, you could probably find some good used deals there. And maybe if you want to get like a used Switch or something, you might be able to find some good prices on those things too. But in terms of PC parts, there was nothing at the book off. But then when it came to the hard off, they actually initially I thought, oh wow, this looks like a pretty good deal on a 360mm water cooler. And so I was looking at that, but then I looked closely at the description and like parts are missing. And if you're missing brackets on a cooler, especially a water cooler, it's going to make things tough, especially if you don't have any spares lying around. So I thought them asking that price for it after finding out it was missing parts, I thought was a real poor deal, especially when we picked up a water cooler off Amazon with a sale for around about 60 USD for a 240mm from Allzai. Now, I know this brand, I've used it in the past and it's actually pretty solid. So I'm gonna be keen to put this on my son's build, where we did talk about getting the Corsair cooler, but unfortunately they were out of stock. They were actually pre-ordering them. And when I asked how long it could take, they said it could take up to months to get there. So I'm thinking to myself, well, yeah, I'm not interested in waiting months for a 120mm water cooler when kind of need it right now. because I want to do my son's build pretty soon for him so he can get into making some banger music. Anyway guys, I'll put the tally up here for this month's used parts hunt. These are all the prices that we paid for the parts. I think we got some really, really good deals. This month has actually been my favorite so far. And what I'm seeing right now is used PC parts prices are coming down to the point where you're gonna be able to pick out absolute bargains, especially in the next few months. Definitely keep a lookout for when those prices just drop suddenly, especially on things like a used RTX 2000 series. I mean, we're getting RTX 2080s for 290 bucks. And there's also the 1080 Ti, 250 bucks. These deals, I haven't seen them that cheap before. And so I think people just want the latest and greatest stuff. It's got to be RTX 3000 or it's got to be RX 6000 series. And if they're not looking at that, they're going to let the other stuff go very cheap, and it's still more than capable of playing games, especially at 1080p and even 1440p like the RTX 2080. But then even if we look at the RTX 3000 series, we got that Seahawk edition. That was an absolute bargain considering prices of RTX 3080s are going well over Juichiman, which would be like 800 USD here. And also on the used market, they're coming in higher than what we paid. So this month, really happy with those two stores, especially the first ones we hit up. I think going forward, I might be doing the parts hunt, maybe go hit up Tokyo, then go hit up that Chibas place with a massive backpack, and that's how I'll do it. And in terms of the PCs, I've got to figure something out. So I might be putting parts back on a boat, sending them back to Australia, or if you guys are interested, I might look in to see how much international shipping is on PCs and maybe start shipping Tech Yes warehouse PCs out to people who want to not get ripped off. I put my cut on top and I think everyone's happy. And maybe if I was to trial this out, it could work. In terms of selling locally here in Japan, I'm still like a couple of months away from setting up all my credentials and being able to sell stuff here legitimately. So yeah, in the meantime though, I've got a problem, and that is I'm always addicted to deals. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, then be sure to hit that like button, and also let us know in the comment section below again, what was your favorite deal of the month? And with that aside, we've got the question of the day here too. And this comes from Marcus, and they ask, is the auto dimming happening noticeably while using the monitor? This happened with previous LG TVs while coding. So in terms of auto dimming, I recently took a look at an LG 48-inch GQ900. I personally didn't recommend it. I thought it was more fluff than providing raw improvements, especially for the money. I'd say you'd want to stick with, say, a CX or a C1 or something like that. I think they're cheaper and I love the gloss. But anyway, with the auto dimming, this one also, I think all OLEDs will auto dim quite hard and quite fast when the background is static white. So that produces the most heat from the OLED itself. And so if there's going to be burn-in, it's going to stop that from happening. So basically, if you've got a black background, or you've got a darker background and you want to code, that's going to be better for not auto-dimming the text, and you'll be able to see things easier. But if you've got just a white static background, it will auto-dim hard. This has happened on pretty much all the OLEDs I've used in the past, and it happens quite quick. And if you turn that setting off, then yes, you can get burn-in quite aggressively, and it can happen quite fast. So hopefully that answers that question. And with that aside, guys, I'll catch you in another tech video very soon. If you stayed this far and you're enjoying that Tech Yes content, be sure to hit that sub button, ring that bell, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out for now. Bye.
Back to the start. We lost everything. We lost everything, but you'll always stay close.